Our fight to eradicate corruption, maladministration, unethical leaders, and the abuse of taxpayers' money by those in power continues. It's fresh, it's fearless, and focused. The Outer Hour, where your voice matters.
Hello, how's it? And welcome to the Outer Hour. I'm Tom London with you for the next hour with the Outer team and special guest Leighton Beard, spokesperson for the AA, the Automobile Association, on the show tonight. If you're a motorist, if you're driving around with a card that expires at midnight tonight, this is a show you want to be part of. Don't go anywhere. We'd like to welcome our viewers on YouTube. We're streaming live on the YouTube and Facebook platforms tonight. So if you're joining us for the first time on YouTube, welcome to the show. As always, our regular viewers, we open the door and roll out the red carpet for you as we say, how's it, to our Facebook friends and supporters. Now, let me take you behind the scenes quickly and show you the team that makes this show happen. First off to Samantha van Nispen, Head of Marketing and Comms at Outer, but tonight sitting behind her computer and engaging with you on the YouTube channel. How's it, Sam?
Hi, Tom. Hi, everybody. If you're watching on YouTube, looking forward to engaging with you in a little while. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share so you can catch the show every Wednesday.
That's Samantha van Nispen. And when you chat in the YouTube comment section, you'll be chatting with Sam. If you're in Facebook and chatting in the comment section in Facebook, then let me introduce you to Masego Motsoneng. Masego, good evening to you.
Hello. Can't wait to interact with all of you. Please drop your questions and comments for all our guests tonight.
And she's looking lovely. She's got the right kind of lighting in her places. Stefani Fick and Masego have got the best lighting. Devaney Davids, the show's producer. Hi, Devaney. What can we look forward to on the show tonight?
Hi, Tom. We can look forward to our guest, Leighton. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. To driver's license topic, very hot topic this evening, as well as Arto. And I myself look forward to it. Enjoy the evening.
Thank you, Devaney. And now the CEO of Outer, Wayne Duvenage, joins us from his home office. Gee, Wayne, it never stops. It doesn't rain, it pours for the motorists. And tonight we're discussing two important topics when it comes to motorists in South Africa: the driver's license renewal, an extension period that Outer is proposing, and the problems that are coming along from tomorrow for South African motorists. And we'll discuss R2 and the latest court challenges, and we'll give you an update from the legal team tonight as to what Outer is doing on the legal front when it comes to R2. How's it, Wayne?
How's it, Tom? Yeah, it's never a dull day, hectic. I think the Department of Transport certainly keeps us busy, and organizations like the AA. And we've just got limited resources, but we've got to pay a lot of attention to what's happening. I think if there was just some sanity that prevailed in this space, we could get on with so much other stuff. Really, government shoots itself in the foot with some of its policies and regulations that it tries to bring out. So, yeah, very busy. And these next couple of days are going to be quite telling, but we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the show.
Special guest tonight is Leighton Beard, spokesperson for the Automobile Association. Leighton, good to have you with us, and thank you for your time. We're looking forward to the discussion tonight.
Thank you very much, Tom. Yeah, always good to be with you guys. So, yeah, I hope I can add some value. There's too many people in my life who tell me that I don't at the moment. So, hopefully this is a bit of a change.
Well, we'll be the 4 or 5 people in your life that tell you add value, Leighton. How's that?
And thank you. That makes me feel better already.
There
Tom.
we go. Well, that's part of what we do here. We make people feel better about situations. And the situation that we're all worried about is this estimate that come tomorrow, 1st of April 2022. South Africa will have over 1 million motorists with expired driver's license cards. This is a big problem, and not one that the government will be able to wish away or dump in the lap of its citizens. Government's been blaming the COVID pandemic for the inefficiencies in the renewal process, but Outer supporters will tell you, and ordinary South Africans will tell you, that these problems existed and more, even before the pandemic started. The question is, how can government expect citizens to be law-abiding when the very process at their disposal is defunct, ineffective, and broken? We'd like your input on the show tonight, wherever you are watching from. Pop your comments in the comments section down below this video. We've got comments from YouTube and Facebook back on on the show from tonight, so we'll be able to put your questions directly to Leighton and the team. Leighton, let me throw the first question at you, shall I? And let me ask you what the AA perceives to be the underlying problem of the RTMC's online booking system. What's the problem?
Well, thanks for that very loaded question that requires a 30-hour answer. Look, now I'm being facetious. It grinds my gears when I hear that the problems we have at the moment are as a result of COVID-19. Certainly, COVID-19 has exacerbated this problem to an extent. The problem has always been there. The problem was there in 2015, in 2016, and it's just been getting progressively worse since then. Our view as the AA is that there is a wholesale system issue within the RTMC. And that system issue is an IT problem. It's a human resources problem. I speak to people all the time and say, I went into to a place to get my license renewed, but the system was offline. Some people go in expecting to do an eye test only to be told that you have to do your own eye test. Other people go in with an eye test only to be told that you can't bring an eye test and we have to do it. But we can't because the machine that does the eye test doesn't work. So that's the problem. Besides the fact that people are just incredibly rude at these centers, and I speak from personal experience when I say that, I could live with that if the system worked. The online booking system, sadly, Tom, is just an extension of all the other problems that the RTMC has had. Now, you have to ask yourself one question, and I'll leave this as a final introductory note. And I think I've mentioned this before, but in 2020, the Road Traffic Management Corporation, which, by the way, is the custodian of road safety in South Africa, one of its sole purposes is to promote road safety in the country, had a surplus of 262 million rand in its financial year. You've got to really shake your head and ask yourself, but how come that is the case? Over and above the fact that obviously the CEO and some members got incredibly big salaries and bonuses. Again, which I don't think would be a problem if the system actually worked to the benefit of South Africans. Last point on this, and to something that Wayne mentioned earlier, it's the role of government to create that facilitating environment. They've got to create the facilities, they've got to create the networks, they've got to create the systems that make it easier for people like Tom London, Wayne Duvenage, Stefanie Fick, et al. To walk in, to do this thing online, get in and out without too much hassle, to pay your money easily. That environment is simply not there, and that's a huge problem.
I don't know how many people I represent when my driver's license has expired and I just don't bother driving anymore. I climb in Bolts and Ubers and Didis and get around Joburg that way. And part of the reason I've done that is that I just don't want to have to deal with the Metro Police and the roadblocks and the problems I have when I roll down the window and produce an expired card and everything that follows from that. So, I mean, it's really ridiculous that I've taken it that far that I'd just rather not drive a car and I'd rather pay for someone to drive me around. But I'm able to do that. But many people have to get to work in the mornings and drop children off at school in the mornings and getting around Johannesburg and Cape Town and Durban and the smaller parts of South Africa. It's absolutely essential. Wayne, how dire is the situation in Outer's opinion? How bad is it? I mean, is this something that can be fixed in a day or two, or is this a much bigger problem?
It's a systemic problem, and it's got tentacles of corruption built into it. And what happens is people get very clever and provide social innovative solutions like queuing for you and pay me and I'll get it done for you. And this is where corruption breeds. And we start getting used to the fact that, well, what's wrong with paying a middleman or a facilitator? But countries like Canada, facilitation fees is corruption. They deem it as corruption, and we don't see it that way. We should be seeing it that way. So it's something that has to be fixed from a multifaceted point of view. Clear out those testing centers of hawkers and individuals who are trying to make a buck, do lie detector tests with, and I know those aren't always valid, but clean out the corruption in your centers have reporting lines. That's just one element. Then it's get an efficient booking system that works, that allows me to have choice where I'm going to go and do my test, and on days, a few day options. There's many solutions that need to be found, but if government keeps doing this, repeating the same problem, thinking they can resolve it themselves without the input of civil society, then we're not going to get anywhere. We're going to be sticking in this problem for years to come. And we just cannot fathom, Tom, why, when it came to the e-toll matter, R2, driver's license, it just goes on and on. Government believes that it is the custodian of finding the solutions all on their own, and they've never really put a customer-centric, a citizen-centric hat on when they try and find these solutions, and so they perpetuate the problem. It's frustrating, I promise you.
Well, I'm looking at some of the comments coming in from viewers tonight, and here are two quick ones. Mornay Smith, is this not just corrupt? Why can no one make appointments on the website? ? And the only way to do it is via corrupt dealings. And I'll follow on with that with a question from Laura Bass, who says, my driver's license must be renewed at the end of June. And I guess this is what everybody wants to know. Laura asks, what implication will this problem have on me? Who'd like to answer?
Stefanie.
Let's say hello to Stefanie Fix, shall we, this evening? We've got Andrea van Heerden standing by as well. But Stefanie, how do you answer a question like that?
Before I go, I would like to hear what Andrea's view is on the issue. I think the solution is multi-pronged, and I think we'll have to bite on our tongues for a little bit. But Andrea, you go first.
Thank you, Stefanie. I think that is a big concern that a lot of people have currently, because as Wayne and Leighton mentioned as well, you have the system that is clearly not effective. People are struggling to get appointments to renew these licenses. But again, it is a systemic issue. I honestly don't think that this issue will be resolved within the next 3 to 4 months. But what we can say is if your driver's license card, and that's very important to understand that. I saw that Dee also mentioned that in the comment section. Very important. Remember, your license does not expire until a court declares you unfit to drive. The only thing that expires is your driver's license card, and that needs to be renewed currently every 5 years. So I think one thing that the minister now recently announced in the media, saying that if your driver's license card expired by the 31st of March and you have applied to renew your license card and you can provide proof thereof, your driver's license card will then be valid for 3 months. Now, everybody jumped on the bandwagon and thought this was something new, but in actual fact, it's nothing new, because that is in any event what the Act says. It says when your driver's license card expires and you've applied, and you have proof you drive with your expired driver's license card, it is deemed to be valid for 3 months. So exactly. I think there's a lot of issues that still need clarity on. Hopefully we'll get clarity tomorrow when the minister does speak or say something about the deadline of the 31st. Alternatively, also what their plans are going forward. And that will kind of depend on what action ALTA is going to take when we know now what is the current situation. But for people whose driver's license card expired only end of June, you still have time. Again, if it expired and you made an appointment, you actually paid for that appointment, it will in any event be valid for further 3 months.
I'm picking up all this frustration in the comments section. I'd like to ask Leighton. Leighton, what does the AA believe government should be doing in order to alleviate these frustrations that we've seen from the ordinary motorist in South Africa?
Yeah, I think Wayne certainly touched on a few of those, and so did Andrea. The first thing they've got to do is they've got to extend the validity period of licenses from the current 5 to 10 years. I think that's a given. I think it should happen immediately. Let's just get that off the table right off the bat. I think the problem, and Andrea alluded to this actually, Tom, is that there's so much obfuscation in terms of the messaging that comes from government in terms of it's an extension, it's a deadline, it's a this, it's a that. People don't actually know where they stand. And exactly as Andrea pointed out, this new, well, your license is valid for another 3 months after the deadline. I mean, that's always been the blimmin' case. So, there's nothing new in it. And it's almost like, well, here's a carrot that we're giving you, we're kind of dangling in front of you. But no, that's always been there. So what government has to do to fix the problem is they've got to listen to civil society, not only meet civil society and tick a box and say, well, we've engaged civil society. They've actually got to engage meaningfully, take on board the things civil society is saying. As an example, the AA and OUTA met the Minister of Transport in August 2019, where we spoke out, both organizations independently in different meetings, telling the minister the same thing about e-tolls. This is a system that's dead in the water. We've done research that shows that the vast majority of people are not going to be paying their tolls, whatever the case is. And it's 3 years down the line because of COVID that we haven't heard anything. So there's the first thing. Listen to civil society, take on board what civil society has to say, rip out your IT system, replace it with an IT system that works. Goodness knows you've got the capital to actually do that. Train your people on an ongoing basis, continued education, not just train them and leave them to their own devices. Have proper systems in place to make people accountable. Have proper systems in place to deal with corruption. Paint the walls inside the DLTCs, for goodness sakes. We've got a situation now, and sorry, I'm not intending to ramble, but we've got a situation at the moment where you've got DLTCs in Waterfall and Centurion, which are state of the art. And people are raving about them. I go in there, it's beautiful, I'm in and out and whatever. Our view is every single DLTC should be there. So you ask what the solution is, there's a prime example.
Yeah.
Can I chip in?
Please
there,
do,
Tom?
Stefanie.
I actually want to ask the question. I want to, and maybe that's posed at later. And I hear you say that, the first step should be license card renewals should move from 5 to 10 years. And I think in this room, we are all in agreement. I don't think there's a lot of people that will disagree with that. But a controversial question, why should we have renewal cards? Why don't we have a license? We have a license for life. Why don't we have a card that is valid for life?
Look, I think that the issue with the renewal is it has a road safety element to it, and I think that government needs to. I think one of the things we have suggested is that obviously you need to have your eyes tested to be safe on the road again. So you're not going to get retested as a driver, but you're going to have your eyes tested. And I think in order for you to maintain that card and have a license, you should have your eyes tested and you should be able to submit that electronically, and that validates your license going forward. I think that for me is the only reason.
Well, there's another reason. The photograph on your card, people age, and the traffic officer needs to have a look at, is this the right person? So I think 10 years is okay. So you don't need to do it every 5 years, but the card has a validity check from a photograph point of view. Your eyes have been tested, fingerprints, well, they shouldn't be changing. So there's some reason, but it's not necessary to do it every 5 years. I agree.
It isn't, and I mean, I agree. It's a form of identification as well, which I think is.
Many people like Stefanie don't age.
Thank you, Wayne. So I get that. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say that. I mean, I've got 80s hairstyle in my ID, but be that as my. And I don't want to push the issue because we are talking philosophically. But if you really want to, what is the problem? Road safety. If you want to really curb road safety, then test people's ability to drive. Why? And I have, someone actually asked me, and I was I was saying you need to test your eyes. I do think that, a responsible motorist is not going to get into a car if you can't see. The people that do not care, that will actually, drive around blind, will probably also drive without a license. And then your problem becomes law enforcement. So it comes right back to your ability to enforce whatever you say should happen. And I think our problem at this point in time. It's not whether my card expired or not. The problem is, do we have enough traffic officials, and do we really catch the people that is causing the problem? And with that is training and, getting our children again climatized to the fact that we need to be responsible motorists and so forth. The people in my life that I thought getting into a car with had a renewed card. But my poor grandmother couldn't drive anymore. I was sitting in the back seat and nearly had a heart attack, and we needed to take her car away. So it wasn't the eye test. It wasn't the photograph in her. It was the responsibility of the family to say, you are unable to drive anymore. So I just wanted to, it's not to cause chaos, and I do think that there is value in 10 years. I just feel that in a country where there's so many other problems, you are burdening the motorist unnecessarily, create an administrative system that is defunct, and your problem is not getting solved. But just interest. I'm not going to fight that. Yeah.
No, I think you're very pragmatic. I think it's a very pragmatic solution, but I think we must be pragmatic in the argument as well. I don't think that, we are struggling to get government to extend the validity period from 5 to 10 years. I don't think that this government, because of the revenue stream that the cards bring in, is necessarily going to say, well, let's do away with the cards. I think it's an argument that we can have, maybe 5 years down the line when we have a 10-year period. So I think that's important. In the meantime, we have to fight the issue. And the issue is that the system as it is at the moment is a dog show. And we need to fix that.
I was
Tom.
Yes.
So in answer to some of the questions, and I see our viewers are knocking the nail on the head. This is a situation where the state has created a problem and are trying to put it in the laps of citizens. And it's not our problem. It's the state's problem. You cannot have a country with millions of its citizens living in anxiety, not knowing how they're going to be handled by an overzealous traffic policeman. That's the problem here. It shouldn't be difficult to get your license. It hasn't been in the past. It isn't the case in many other cities. It's only concentrated in a few areas. So the question that everyone's asking, so what happens now? And I think there we're unpacking, and we'll be coming up within the next few days, Stefanie, with some direction, some solutions, some ideas of how to handle the situation, which, if the government doesn't embrace properly, becomes an unenforceable or an unmanageable problem for them. And we speak of this very often, this crisis of legitimacy in government when it cannot manage its own laws. And so we're asking people not to panic. We're also not saying, well, just don't pay and be civilly disobedient, like we encouraged on the e-toll matter. Was a very different matter. What we are saying is there's a process that you need to follow, but hopefully people can show they have been trying to get their license. So the answer to the question you put earlier from one of the viewers is their license expires in June. What should she do? Well, start applying now. Start going online. And every time you can't book online, every time the system crashes, make a note of it. Take screenshots if you can, because these are the things that stand you in good stead. When and if you then get fined for having an expired license, you can say, I did my best to comply with the law. You made it difficult. No judge is going to find you guilty. But there's going to be a call from ADA to stand up as citizens and to follow a certain process if you feel you'd like to. And the more people that do that, the more we can show government that they've really caused the system to collapse. Maybe, Stefanie, you've got some more to add there. And we're going to be launching a platform where we want citizens to go and record their experience in all three areas. The first one being, could you book online? What happened when you got to the center? Because as Leighton says, when you get there, sometimes you stand for hours, you miss your slot. We've heard of people having to go home. They're treated badly in the centers. And then the third thing is, when you've done all of those two, now you've got to go and collect your license, and you get there 2-3 months later and it's not there, and it's just chaos. So we want to start recording the real issues here, so that we can go back to government and say, this is not imagined. This is a real problem. So don't tell us the system's working when here's the proof it isn't. Stefanie?
Okay, I agree. So the first point is, just calm yourself and go to the center. Know that you are probably going to be frustrated. But depending on when your card expires, start applying now. Keep record of what you do. And I want to leave this with you. Just remember, you have a license for life. It's like the fact that my ID book disappears or is stolen doesn't mean I'm no longer a South African citizen. So as long as a court does not suspend your license, so keep that in mind. You are a law-abiding citizen because you're driving around with your license, and which is on an expired license card. So that may sound complicated, but just know that you are applauded for the fact that you actually are driving a car with a license. There are people that do not. Secondly, try as quickly as possible to solve this problem of getting your card renewed. But always drive with your card in your car, whether it is expired or whether it's not. If you are lucky and you could have renewed your card before the expiry date and now the card is expired, keep that receipt with you at all times in a car. When you are now stopped, which we believe should not happen, but if a JMPD or a Tshwane Metro cop stops you, keep the following in mind. In Gauteng, the situation is different because R2 is applicable. In the rest of the country, R2 is not applicable, so they work on a Criminal Procedure Act sort of process. So in Joburg and Tshwane, the chances of you getting an R2 fine, which may be up to 2,000, is very good. What options does R2 give you? Do I want to pay this? Because I really do not have time to argue with anybody. I'm willing to pay it. Then you pay the fine. You will know. Am I an active citizen? And is this issue important enough for me to stand up and say, you know what? I'm a law-abiding citizen. You make it impossible for me to renew my card, so I'm going to fight this. This is where you elect to be tried in court in terms of the R2 process. And it immediately throws you back into the Criminal Procedure Act and in the courts. Now, this may sound daunting. Just remember, yet again, RTIA and RTMC and the department, they don't have a lack of time getting up to scratch and up to speed with R2. And once you are in the criminal justice system, you can have make representations to a prosecutor, and it's a totally different process. And I think if you must understand that going to court, it takes time. Going to court is expensive, but it is worth it. And may I just leave this with you? The chances of that happening is still very slim. And if we are correct and it floods the system, the department is going to be faced with a totally different issue. Mm-hmm. If you get a ticket in another part of the country, just remember that if you are from Gauteng and you do get a ticket and you are obliged to then go to a court, remember it may include traveling time and all of that. So yet again, you need to decide, am I paying my ticket or do I want to appear in court and actually defend myself and say why I have an expired license card?
Don't be afraid to fight.
If you ever get arrested, without giving legal advice, because it's so difficult, each and every person's situation depends on the situation you found yourself in. But the best advice I can give you is stay calm. Don't fight with them. They can use an excuse. They can just accept whatever is happening to you and phone an attorney ASAP. Just remember, if you are arrested, you have certain a constitutional right. You have a right to remain silent. You have a right to a legal representation. And if you are arrested for something simple like that, because you shouldn't be arrested for not carrying a valid license card. But if you do, maybe it's a trump-up charge or whatever the case may be, if you do, just remember there's also after-hours bail. So you have a right to say, but listen, I need to be released. That is, Bobbejaan agter die bult gaan haal, I know, but I think you should be more alert to making sure that you do not have enforcement orders against your name, because that has got other problems, and make sure that you don't have warrants of arrest, because those are you can normally pay in any case if it is traffic related. But so it's quite a tick box. But I think what people need to understand: am I paying fines? Because that's a possibility. We can't stop them. If they want to act irrational and unlawful, we can't stop them. But what are you prepared to do? I hope that, Wayne, is that covering it.
No, lovely, good comments.
Yeah, what is an advocate?
Leighton, what's your view?
Yeah, go ahead, Wayne.
Yeah, I'd love Leighton's view before we say goodbye to him on that. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. Look, I think, we made our views on this known today. We think that there is a crisis looming. There's too many people who haven't been able to get sorted out in terms of the application process. It's going to create a huge problem for very many people in terms of fines. I think we're going to see a massive spike in the number of fines being issued in the next couple of weeks and months. And people are sadly not always going to be in a position to say, but I've tried, because they don't have all the evidence, but that is going to happen. And as Stefanie said, I mean, so you've always got to ask, what am I prepared to do? Not, what am I prepared to let happen to me? So that's a very key piece of information. I think the only last thing that I would say is that if you have a license that has expired before whatever date, do your utmost to apply for a new one. Go online, do what you can to get it. And as Wayne said, make notes along the way, get all of that detailed, for future reference, but don't stop trying. Carry on trying. The system is working against you. Don't let it win. Try and get these documents if you are able to. That is my lasting piece of advice. Thank you very much, Wayne.
And Leighton Beard, spokesperson for the AA. Thanks for joining us tonight, Leighton. We wish you a good evening.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. Have a good one. Cheers.
Always good to have Leighton Beard on the show. I'm just taking a look at some of the comments that are coming in on the show. Lerato says the fees don't reflect that pandemic claim from the department. We still have to pay. We still get fined. Ghulam Hussein says the driver's license backlog was caused by the RTI systems, and now they expect South African citizens to be penalized for their failures. How big a part does system failure play here? I mean, I guess when Ghulam says systems, I'm thinking IT systems. Is there a problem with the IT infrastructure at RTIA and when it comes to driver's licenses, Wayne?
Yeah, it's RTMC, and there are systemic problems with the technology. It's very slow. It crashes. It's not, very often not online. It's not up. So they've got challenges there. And then it's the design of the system. So let me tell you some of the problems, and we must verify some of these. I'd like to hear from our viewers there out there as well as on this platform. But things like if I book, I don't get a choice. I get told I've got to go here. There's the date. So I say, okay, let me book it for the 17th of April. In between that time, I've got other meetings. My boss says I've got to go go and see customers on that day. I want to change it. I can't. I've got to wait for the 17th until that date expires before I can book another one. So it's a combination of design. It's a combination of the actual technology and the hardware and the efficiency of it. And if you can't get the design right, it doesn't matter how fast your systems are, it just becomes a nightmare. And this is why we say involve civil society, because we've learned so much from our supporters and from the real experience in our research. And let's find the efficiency. Let's walk hand in hand with government. But if they don't want to hold our hands, then we can't force this issue. So we have to do it another way. And unfortunately, citizens get caught up in this washing machine of inefficiency.
Wayne, Caroline Unger's book says this is an insurance nightmare. Now, I'm sure you've seen your fair share of insurance claims in your past life. Is this an insurance nightmare? What happens if you're driving with an expired card and you get into an accident or you're the cause of it?
Well, we are waiting for confirmation from the insurance industry players on this, but our past experience says it's not going to be an issue. But maybe, Stefanie, how do you see it? I mean, we've spoken about it in the past, and on the ETOL matter when they were threatening to not give you a vehicle license, we got clarity from the insurance industry. One of them tried to say, no, we won't cover you, but they quickly changed their tune when others said they would, and it becomes a competitive issue. But, if my tires are smooth, someone rams into the back of me, it's not my fault, you pay out. If I drive that same car with smooth tires in the rain and have an accident, well, then I'm at fault. And it's that type of thing. What consequence does the driver's license expired have on the accident? I'd love to set Stefanie loose on any insurance company that wants to reject your claim because of that.
I'd like to see that. Mario Barnard says, I have to rent a vehicle while I'm on holiday at the end of April, but I suspect my card will not be ready by then, even though I renewed 8 weeks ago. What do I do? Not much you can do.
Check with your rental company. I'm sure they don't want to lose customers. They know this is a problem. I'm sure they're going to bend the rules, but check with them first. If they don't want to rent to you, find one that will. There are rental companies that will rent to you with an expired license, I'm sure.
Tiago dos Santos Serra says all this card rubbish is a money-making scheme. Is it, Wayne?
Stefanie?
Yeah. Don't have to ask me twice. I really do think in other words, it looks like the system is designed around how much can we charge and what can we get out of this versus what is practical? What is the purpose of having this system? What do we want to accomplish? And how can we make this, better for citizens and motorists, not make it as difficult as possible? So I really think if you just look at the exorbitant fees that they are currently charging, this now, the obsession with being online and then the system doesn't really work. If you look at just the design, yes, I think it's a money-making scheme. And then they don't use the money, like Leighton has said, they don't use the money to improve your experience. They pay themselves bonuses like what happened with the RTIA.
Wow. Okay, so we can expect more news from you on next week's show. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, let's see. I mean,
are we waiting for the minister?
Let's see if the minister actually, for once in his life, sort of listened and just accept that when the public, there's always, there's always the two sides of the story, but somewhere along the line there's a middle ground. And I think we've heard too many stories about people just struggling, the amount of time it takes to get your card, and I don't know what. Do not accept that people are struggling out there and that people are generally just want to be law-abiding citizens. But I want to leave this with everybody. Just remember that we can criticize the system, which is right. And what we are trying to do is to find a solution. Listen to business, listen to civil society, and let's find a solution to this problem that will suit everybody. But in the meantime, don't be hard on yourself. You try your best to do your license card. And thereafter, just know that if you are driving, you are responsible and you have a license, but your card happens to expire because the government was unable to assist you. Don't be too hard on yourself.
I'm just looking at some of the comments coming in and the frustrations that our viewers have got. I mean, I'm looking at Vanessa Jameson say, what do you do when you applied in Benoni at the beginning of November? You got a temporary license as Benoni was on strike, they said, in February. Now I'm leaving for the UK the end of April. What do I do? The international license is only valid for 3 months. And so many stories like that popping across the screen. And that's before we get into the R2 discussion and the problems with R2, which perhaps we should segue into now and talk about how OUTA has been vocal for many years. And it's been a topic of discussion on the show many times before. This R2 Act and the unconstitutionality of it, the irrationality of it. And OUTA believes that these pieces of traffic legislation are unconstitutional. They won't assist in curbing road traffic fatalities in South Africa. OUTA has repeatedly pointed out the problems with R2 Acts, and it even approached the High Court in Pretoria to challenge the constitutional validity of these acts. And the High Court of Pretoria agreed with OUTA, found that the R2 Acts are indeed unconstitutional and invalid. But as we know from our discussions with the legal team and the legal eagles at OUTA before, nothing is simple when it comes to law. It's procedural, and we have to go through certain steps, and we've been giving you updates along the way when it comes to OUTA, and tonight we'll do the same. Let's talk about let's get Andrea van Heerden in here, Senior Legal Project Manager for OUTA, and just take us, before we get to confirmation application, just refresh us in 30 seconds our memory when it comes to the High Court challenge and the judgment, please, Andrea.
Right, thank you so much, Tom. So just a high-level overview. Basically, what OUTA is saying is that we honestly believe that the R2 Acts, both the R2 Act and the R2 Amendment Act, are both unconstitutional because, one, we believe that it unlawfully intrudes upon the competencies of provincial and municipal government. So national government is usurping that power and taking it away from local government to manage their own affairs. So that's the one point. And alternatively, we said that the service provision or the service clause in the new Amendment Act is also unconstitutional. By moving away from sending notices via registered mail, the new act or the Amendment Act gives government the power to elect which medium they want to use, either by email or SMSs. So that was our points that we raised in terms of the constitutionality of these two acts. We went to the High Court. As memory recalls, I think we were heard on the 19th of October last year. And then on the 13th of January this year, judgment was given by Judge Basson, and she agreed with OUTA's points on the constitutionality, and therefore both the acts, not partial, in its entirety, was declared unconstitutional and invalid.
Now, the last time we spoke, Andrea, you mentioned something called a confirmation application that you would have to launch at the Constitutional Court. What is a confirmation application, and have you launched that confirmation application?
Right, Tom, I think that's a very important principle, especially when it comes to a lower court, for this, in this instance, the High Court, declaring that certain acts are unconstitutional and invalid. As we all know, that the Constitutional Court is the apex court of South Africa, and therefore only they have the power to enforce or to make judgment in order to enforce this unconstitutionality. And that's exactly what a confirmation application is. It's in terms of the Constitutional Court rules that a party, in this case OUTA, must approach this the Constitutional Court to get a confirmation of the High Court's order of unconstitutionality and invalidity. So what OUTA did is on the 3rd of February this year, we launched our confirmation application to the Constitutional Court in order for them to declare that these acts are indeed invalid and unconstitutional. Now, as with all the legal processes, you have to go through processes. So it affords both parties to put their version before the courts. So subsequently, which is very interesting, we had 4 defendants in the matter. So we had 4 entities that we issued this High Court matter against. The one was the Minister of Transport in his capacity as the Minister of Transport. The second one, I think it was the Minister of Cooperative Governance. The third one was the RTIA itself, because the RTIA administers R2. And then the fourth one was the R2 Appeals Tribunal, which to this date has not been instituted, but we had to include them because that's what the Act says. So out of the 4 of those defendants, only the minister entered his opposition to oppose the confirmation application of this High Court judgment, not the RTIA, who actually actively participated in the High Court challenge. So it was only the minister, and the minister then had 15 court days to file their answering affidavit. That's basically their answer to our constitutional or the confirmation application we brought. Now, the deadline was the 17th of March, and I can confirm to this date we have not received any feedback, or we have not received the answering affidavit from the minister as of yet. I honestly believe, I think he's so busy with this driver's license issue, he's kind of putting the confirmation application on the back burner. But yeah, that's just my personal opinion. But yeah, that's currently where we are now with the application of the Constitutional Court.
Andrea, as far as the High Court judgment is concerned, did the minister file a notice of appeal?
Yes, he did. So what the Constitutional Court rules does, it affords certain remedies to the certain party. So, for instance, we were afforded the opportunity to bring this confirmation application, which will confirm the judgment of the High Court. And in the same breath, that same regulation or that same court rule also gave the minister or the affected parties the right to file a notice of appeal. So the minister did file a notice of appeal with the Constitutional Court, but unfortunately, when that happens, we then await directions from the registrar of the Constitutional Court to kind of tell us how we're going to proceed with the procedure, how many days which party has. Now, we all know that within the last couple of months, a new Chief Justice was appointed. So we had to wait, and we are still waiting for that process to come to an end before we can get any directions further on the notice of appeal. But I can confirm that basically it's gonna run parallel to one another. We have the confirmation application that we are bringing, and we also have the notice of appeal from the minister saying they want to appeal the judgment, but we are waiting further directions from the Constitutional Court on that matter.
Got it, I think. Right. What is an intervention application? We're learning law tonight. What is an intervention application?
Well, that's very interesting because the thing is, intervention applications, it's basically when a party was not party to the initial litigation or to the litigation, and they feel that they have a substantive interest in that matter, and they want to join, they want to intervene in what is happening in this matter now. So very interesting what happened. I think it was a month ago, if I'm not mistaken, Stefani. We received an intervention application from the RTMC. Now, it's very strange that it came from the RTMC because they are not tasked with administrating R2. The RTIA is, and they didn't even defend the confirmation application. But the RTMC, the Road Traffic Management Corporation, says that they have a direct interest in this matter, and therefore they want to approach the court to be included in the confirmation application. So they're bringing this intervention application to intervene in the confirmation application at the Constitutional Court.
I learned something tonight from you. Thank you. Stefani, is AUTA going to defend this intervention application? What do you do with it?
Yeah, I do think that the advice was that we should, because the problem we are in the Constitutional Court. When matters get to the Constitutional Court, the issues, is crystallized and everything is clear, and it's normally, it's the law question that needs to be answered is quite clear. Now the RTMC, I think, is trying to muddle the waters. Why? I have no idea. I don't know if between the departments, the one attorney didn't do a good job in their answering affidavits. I do not know how RTIA affidavits and reasoning would be different than the RTMC. The RTMC, although that's sort of yet again a national body, RTIA is the custodian, like Andrea said, of R2. So if RTIA can't help the court, I don't know why RTMC thinks that they can do a better job. Plus, I actually, every time I think about this, I forget to go and have a look. But funny enough, the minister was cited in the original case, and he was there, and I am quite sure that the RTMC reports to the minister. So I don't know why they all of a sudden are saying, you know what, we weren't known in this matter and we want to intervene now. So, yeah, that's just a side point. So I think if you go back to purely on law, the whole case right from the start was law arguments, not merits. in the sense that, yes, we can file affidavits up the wazoo as to how impractical R2 is, or the fact that it has been a failure, the fact that they have been struggling for years to get R2 to work. But it's not about that. So what is RTMC going to do? Give us another interpretation of what they think the Constitution is saying? No. So we are opposing, and I think it's sort of in that line that, we are at a stage where the Concord is supposed to, this is the issues, this is how we're gonna find. But despite that, you know what, they can intervene. I don't think that they, if you take a step back and you just read all the papers and think about what they can do, is what are they, they can't have this. I don't know. I think they're wasting everybody's time. And
where does this end up, Stefanie? Where does this end up where does this land up in your opinion? What happens?
No, I think what will happen is that most probably the Constitutional Court will allow them to intervene, because the court will want to make sure that they hear everybody. So they will. What possibly can happen is to allow them to intervene, but at the end say that. Their argument, and when costs are given, will take that into consideration. I don't think that any of these let's play for time business is doing them a huge favor. I think the registrar is going to come back. The Chief Justice is going to give us some direction saying, by this date, you need to file heads of argument. By this day, they will need to file heads of argument, and we will hear argument on this day.
And if I can just add to,
go ahead.
Sorry, Tom. If I can just add to what Stefanie says, it's very important to mention as well as Stefanie mentioned, we are in the Constitutional Court. So it's about the confirmation of a judgment that was handed down based on the facts before the court then. So it's a confirmation of this order. So I think in my mind, what the RTMC is trying to do is to introduce new facts to the constitutional challenge, or in the Constitutional Court on this confirmation application. But what we are saying is, remember, this is very public. We've done an exercise where we went to go look at how many times it was published in the media, how many news articles were out there before we actually had judgment on this. And the RTMC never intervened. They never, even in the High Court, brought an intervention application. What is the difference now when they bring it on the Constitutional Court, except if they want to introduce new facts to this matter, which we don't think will happen.
And assuming the courts agree with OUTA and disagree with the minister and RTMC, etc., and the R2 Act is found to be unconstitutional and invalid and rubber stamped by the highest court, Wayne, what? I mean, I keep asking this question: what happens then? But you've had government put in this massive mess, as you put it, together, and then it has to be unraveled. I guess the question I'm asking is, where to with transport in this country?
Look, there's so much that has to be done, Tom. Right down to PRASA, public transport, aviation, wherever we go, it's really frustrating. Been around a long time. The toll decision, but R2, it's sad because government has been working on this since 2007. I remember a headline in 2008 saying R2 will go live across the country. It will be implemented, and here we sit, nearly 15 years later, and it really is now, we've had to stop it on a constitutional matter, but if it tries to go ahead, it's going to fail. So where to now is government, I think, has got no option but to go back to the drawing board. Again, we say work with civil society, work with the major stakeholders, and let's find the solutions. Because let's face it, we all want to live in a country that works. It works well and sufficient. And I've said it on a number of times, it's hard to leave the people who created the problem in charge of finding the solution. So they have to bring in new blood, new thinking, and that will come from civil society. And if government adopts an approach of let us work with and listen meaningfully to civil society and others, we will together find the solution. That's what has to happen. The problem with the state government is power goes to their head. They think because they're given a position of power that they are powerful and that whatever they say goes. Well, that's why we are here, to show them that citizens won't tolerate inefficiencies and policies and systems that are doomed to fail. We'll stand up for our rights, we'll take you on. And that's what we've been doing for the last 10 years, and we'll continue to do until some sanity prevails.
So often when you look at conflicts, and even the biggest conflicts in the world, you have people saying, just sit down and talk and resolve it and work it out. And we see it right up to the Ukraine conflict. A lot of commentators say, sit down and talk. And a comment that came in earlier today on the Facebook page when we were promoting the show from Peter was, and I see a couple of people have echoed this in the comment section tonight, how about interviewing the minister and asking him why there's still no answer on e-tolls? I mean, I doubt Minister Mbalula is going to come into the studio and face the outer supporters on an issue like e-tolls. But when it comes to engaging with the minister, when it comes to engaging with the departments, and I think of e-tolls, for example, Sanrail, is outer open to sitting down and talking?
Absolutely, and we think that government is starting to display its willingness more and more. I mean, we sit on various panels on government, run and manage panels.
Is there a danger in that, Wayne? How do you maintain an arm's length relationship? Or do you have to?
Well, you see, this is where you just got to be authentic. So the other day, we're sitting in a meeting with Kile Mbalula, the minister, and his advisors and his DG. And at the same time, we're in court stopping the R2 system. And he's talking to us about the 10-year extension, our research and why, and listening to our presentation. So I think you've got to take your hat off when ministers acknowledge that, look, we don't always agree on things, but we need to engage. That is a good thing. And we need to see more of it. It doesn't happen enough. Whether it's authentic or not is another story. But in the Zuma years, the barriers were up, the doors were closed. There was no engagement, and we know why. The doors are opening because in Cyril Ramaphosa's State of the Nation speech, he speaks of, walking hand in hand, finding solutions with civil society. And I guess this is a foreign concept to many people in positions of power because they're not used to it. They don't know how to do it. And especially with an organization like ARTA, which tackles issues hard. Sometimes we sit across the table trying to deal with an issue with people, but we're also almost saying to them, and if you are involved and you're corrupt, we're coming after you. So while we try and find these solutions, just make sure your nose is clean because you might hear from us on other matters. It makes it quite strange sometimes.
Yeah, and I think I'd be sweating a little if Outer walked in to have a friendly conversation and Stefanie Fick and Andrea van Heerden were in the room. I mean, I'd know the legal clout is there as well.
Yeah, it happens often when we do have meetings or when we call for meetings. It's almost what do you want to talk about? Are you here to? Are you coming to lay charges? There is sometimes this palpable fear. Why? Tell us first what it's about.
There we go, Wayne. You've become the Derek Watts, and Stefanie has become the Devi Sankrigovanda of civil activism. When you walk,
and it should be.
No. I think you're right. It's the other way around.
Problem.
Okay, I'm wondering who's the taller of the two of you. I think it's Stefanie. Okay, she'll have to be Derek Watts. Listen, the comments of the night. I think he is, and he drives a little car. He drives a little Fiat 500. I don't know how Derek fits in it. Anyway,
that must be very funny. Yeah, that must be funny.
The comments of the night. I got to give it to Skalk van der Merwe, who said, "What if I've got a blue ID with a driver's license?" I mean, we're not even talking green ID. We're talking blue IDs. Skalk with a. I think you're toast. I think you should just move to another country, Zimbabwe. How's that? They don't have a problem with their driver's license extension. But I thought, Skalk van der Merwe, seeing that you put that comment up on screen, I will match you, mate, because I happen to have my green ID book with me here tonight, and I'm thinking of Wayne's comment at the beginning of the show where people don't recognize you, and I have this problem every time I haul out my green ID book, and I'm not too proud to show you. There's my picture. From when
can't see it.
Oh, you can't see it.
Can't see
no,
it.
I know. I'm not letting you guys see it. I'm letting the viewers see it. There we go. That was issued in 1999. So what's that? something
When you were 12.
years ago.
When you were 12.
Yeah, I was about 10 years old. Look at me. What a handsome young man. Okay, I'll show Wayne and the team quickly. I know they want to see. There we go.
I think mine is older than yours.
Is it?
Well, that's a false ID. That's a false ID.
It's definitely not. It smells pretty new to me. It's still a bit sticky from the printing. No, I'm joking. Geez, you hold on to these green IDs forever. You know why? Because I don't want the frustration of having to go and try and figure out how to get a new ID card because some guy's going to ask me for $500 to jump the queue. Yeah, so I hold on to, and there's Skulk holding on to his blue one. Anyway, that's it for tonight, folks. We'd like to thank Leighton Beard from the AA for joining us this evening and put the team on air now, everyone on screen. Andrea van Heerden, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you, everybody. And be an active citizen, eh? Keep up.
And Stefanie Fick.
Cheers, everybody. I'm looking forward to this. Yeah. Watch this space.
Yeah, there'll be updates for
Have a
sure.
good night.
And then the CEO of Outer, Wayne Duvenage. Thank you, Wayne.
No, thank you. Watch Africa. Watch Newsroom Africa. Stefanie will be on at 9:00 talking about this issue. Tomorrow morning, hopefully, the minister, some sanity prevails. But watch this space. It's not going away. And if they don't make some changes, then there's going to be a lot of issues that are going to come forward. But it's been great to be on the show and nice engaging with our supporters out there. Thanks, everybody, for your support.
Some lovely comments coming in on the comment section on YouTube and Facebook tonight. Samantha van Nispen was in the room on YouTube, and Masego Motsoneng was handling your comments in Facebook. Devaney Davids is the show's producer. Last week, you may remember that we introduced you to the Water Can Project. If you haven't been to the website yet, do so now. Go to watercan.org.za to find out how you can play a part in reporting and getting a good monitoring system going using citizen science when it comes to water issues, so that we can start pushing government to clean up our rivers, our waterways, and make the water distribution system in South Africa more efficient. I was walking past the Klein Yuxke Spruit just 5 days ago, and it smelt like a sewage farm. So I want to get a testing kit and be part of that solution. Hope you do too. Remember, outer.coza is where you go to if you want to find out the latest news. Go to Newsroom, find out about the projects, report backs. You could take a look at what the Outer team does for you on a daily basis. And that's where we leave it tonight. I think I've given you everything I need to, except to say, have a safe week. Wish you lots of money. Wish you lots of love. Wish you lots of health. Wish you lots of happiness. From myself and the team, good night. 7 p.m. next Wednesday is when it will happen again. It's a date. Do not be late. I'm Tom London, and I miss you.
Our fight to eradicate corruption, maladministration, unethical leaders, and the abuse of taxpayers' money by those in power continues. It's fresh, it's fearless, and focused. The Outer Hour, where your voice matters.